Hi, and welcome to week 7. So at this point, I have just about everyone's literature review, and I'm very excited to review them. Just talk a second about that. So I want you to understand that I empathize with you in that you just poured a lot of work into a literature review and research questions, and maybe you're dying to get it back, to hear how you did, to get the feedback. I appreciate that. I've been there. I know what that's like. Timely feedback is really important in education. However, I'd appreciate some grace. So I have two that I've been able to turn back before yesterday, and I will work through these systematically in the order I received them throughout the course of the week. So I know you're excited. Presumably you're excited to get it back. Relax, watch the Olympics a little bit, work on discussion board number 3, and just know that it's coming. I'm going to intentionally take my time, give you as much feedback, much constructive feedback as possible. If you submitted it and have the basic core requirements with the headings, with all the sections in APA format for the most part, and it's evident that you put a solid effort forth, everybody gets 75 points. So I'm trying to be as critical as possible in order to give you constructive feedback for your next revision to make this as good as possible. Again, I'm your sounding board to help build this project up. So assuming, like I said, we have good faith efforts, you get full credit. So I'm not trying to gotcha on points. I'm trying to gotcha on pieces you overlooked, or I'm going to ask you questions. Have you thought about this? Kind of guiding questions. So that'll come back to you via email over the course of the week. I have anything else to say about that? Oh, so when you get it back, I would encourage you to take your time while it's relatively fresh, make the changes. If I'm asking deeper questions or for you to think about, take the time to think about that. If you have questions about my questions, email me back and let's discuss it. While the literature is still fresh, I would encourage you to go through it. It's one of the hardest things to do is to kind of move past it and then several weeks later go back and try to make sense out of the revisions. Because on March 18th is when you will revise this and resubmit it. So it's possible I can give it a second look along the way, but realistically, plan on taking my feedback, and when you look at discussion board 4, which is due March 18th, it'll be your second chance to get this literature review polished and cleaned up. All right, let's move on to discussion board 3, which is what you're working on this week. It's obviously up. You've been able to look at it. A couple key things I want to emphasize. You just did the unit on action research. So this is discussion board 3's. This would typically be a methodology in a dissertation or in a doctoral level project. We're going to call this action research steps, because methodology implies that there's a great deal of statistical analysis and rigor involved in your methods. And at this point, this is a learning experience. This is the goal. So you're going to tell me what you're going to do. This is about procedures and about research steps. When you submit this to me throughout the course of the week, or ideally no later than February 18th, unless we have an agreement, then I will review it for some key pieces. Obviously, for the quality of the submission, make sure that your methods are sound. But it's important that this is again one of the most important parts of your project, to make sure that when you collect this data, it's going to reflect back and answer the questions, and you're going to be able to draw the conclusions. The last thing you want to do is get into data analysis and realize you didn't ask the people the right questions. It's a learning experience. If that happened, that's okay. We'll be able to roll with that. That happens in research too. But I'm here to make sure that you're asking your questions align with your survey, and your data collection aligns with your research goals. We also were very particular in our research question design to stay away from IRB problems. And so again, I want to make sure that your data collection process here is that way. If you looked at this discussion board earlier than today, I want you to know that I added that I need your instrumentation. So the survey that you're passing out, I need a copy of that. That was not originally on here. So if you looked at this earlier than today, know that I added that. And that's important. I want to see exactly what you're passing out, or if you're, I know we have someone who's reviewing records, so to speak, of projects, or reviewing policy. So you should have a format that says, does it contain this policy? How many policies like this does it contain? Or if you're doing students, page 1, student 1. What's their academic achievement? What's their reading scores? What's their social emotional scores? What's their, how many parents in their household? Whatever you're measuring, kind of a one-page summary. So if you have 15 participants, you should have 15 pages, kind of one-pagers that you'll have all the data for. If it doesn't work out exactly that way, that's okay, but that's the type of thing I want to see as far as a tool, and then you're going to discuss that. The other piece I'm making sure, besides quality control, is to make sure that it's doable. You do not want to have an overly elaborate or complex data collection system. This is, again, a research survey course, so it's about understanding, it's about the process. It is not about having an airtight, the most brilliant, the most advanced, complex weaving data analysis, data collection system. This is about the experience of going through this process. All right, so at risk of boring you or insulting you, I'm going to read through discussion board number 3 just so we're clear. So research steps. So you're gonna upload this Word document. If you could put your name, I don't know that I've said this anywhere, put your name in the title of the Word document as you save it. So when I save it, I don't have 13 documents named methodology on my desktop, and I don't know whose is whose. So that's just that would be helpful for me. All right, so let's talk about your methodology section. We're going to call it research steps. It's a huge task. It is important. So I'm simply asking you for a brief listing of all your data collection methods, such as a survey. So you'll state, I passed out a survey. The participants completed a survey on these methods. See attached. What you studied, you'll explain how these and other data collection strategies assisted you in drawing meaningful conclusions and insights. This is your how, why, and what section of your research paper. So make sure, again, you're specifically writing in the third person and avoid I, mine, me. So I want these headings in here, so you organize it, it's organized to me, so I can look through and see if your introduction section is sufficient, if your justification is sufficient. Use these headings, please. We can take them out as we get to a final paper, but for editing, it's really important. So introduction. For a paragraph or 2 or 3, not 10, write a brief description of your literature review. So this is, in a nutshell, you're not going through and hitting all the highlights. Just a brief description of your literature review. Follow this with a formal listing of your research problem, your hypothesis, your null hypothesis, but we want them all together in one paragraph. Follow this by a statement of your sub-questions. So this is in dissertations and longer research, these sections are really long, and so it's important that you continue to restate it. So when someone gets to this section, they don't have to flip back or recall your research question. So it's helpful in our process, and it is the process. This little piece of writing expresses to the reader that you have questions and ideas to ponder, but you don't have an opinion yet. So don't suggest your opinion. Say, this is the literature, these are the questions I have, and we're seeking to explain these questions, or we're searching for some answers. Justification. These paragraphs describe the instruments and methods you are using to collect the data. So survey. This is how I'm collecting a student reading level. It's based on this grade, this test, this developmental, whatever. This doesn't have to be, again, highly cited, but give me some idea, and give the reader some idea, so that way it could be replicated. Or when you say this is, their reading is higher than these other people, based on what? Based on a standardized test, based on a teacher assessment, based on number of books, based on whatever. Same thing with the social emotional scale. Just put it in common language so other people could replicate it, right? That's the thought here in the methods. Just make sure you include all your data sources. All right, this is the participant section. Who, what, why, and how. Participants and procedures. So who are the participants? Why were they chosen? How were they chosen? What are they doing? Why did you deem it necessary to have them? Be honest. So 20 of my coworkers were chosen in the center program that I work with for convenience. They were willing to participate in the study based on me bringing in pizza. Or you don't have to go that far. But they participated in the study. They had access to preschool children or whatever, however that applies to your project, how they were chosen, and then they're teachers of these classes or they're paras in these classes, they're bus drivers, they're, again, whatever. They're parents of preschoolers or kindergartners, and they were willing to do this. Again, you haven't done this, so you would write this in future tense. So this is like a proposal. I'm going to pass out surveys. I'm going to get these participants involved. Later, you'll come back and say, sent out 30 surveys, only 15 came back. But right now you can talk about how you're seeking to get 15 surveys or how you're going to send out 20 or whatever. Conclusion, wrap it up in a short summary that explains why you believe you will gain meaningful insights due to these strategies you have designed. When this is completed, you are now ready to move towards your data analysis section once I approve this method section. And then lastly, your research protocol. I talked about what are your survey questions? What are you going to ask people, and how is that going to help answer your research question? That's really important. A lot of you, some of you I prompted when we were going back and forth with the research question to really help conceptualize what your question was. I needed to make it doable. So we needed to say, well, how are you going to collect this data? That's nice. You want to know what people's inner emotions are, but really, how are you going to be able to get that from a parent survey? Right? So you're asking parents about what they think their kids think about reading or writing or whatever, which is fine. It's just a matter of being clear and saying, we're assessing student attitudes towards reading through a parent survey, and the parents are asked this question: how does your child feel about reading, or is it blank? Is it multiple choice? And again, that's on the survey, so you have to think through all those things. There's going to be a category of 3 or 5. Blank may be fine in a qualitative research. Kind of analyze that, or you may want the multiple choice. Likes it, loves it, hates it, indifferent, whatever. So you have some sense of comparison. Again, that's more quantitative. Whatever you're doing is great. Just think it through, and I'd like it to be thought through and submitted on Sunday so we can tweak it. All right, email me if you have questions or concerns about this. And then, so you're clear on the scope. Once I'm getting your literature review back to you this week. Sunday, I'll get your research methods. Shortly thereafter, from the time you turn in your research methods, you don't have anything else due for another 30 days or 28 days. So I will turn around your research methods in the order I receive them as soon as possible. And then it's time to collect your data, or you'll have some time that if you want, you can get out there and start collecting your data while you're revising the first half of your paper for discussion board 4. Again, don't get consumed or all the things I just talked about. Don't worry about that too much. We're going to take this one step at a time, but in the scheme of things, I wanted to put that there. Also, this week, we're looking at Chapter 11, Qualitative Research Design. So, follow through study guides, quizzes, etc. Email me if you have any questions, and by all means, be encouraged. I believe the literature review is one of the hardest pieces of effort and writing to put together. So we got your questions down, you got the literature review. This methodology, even though it's important, requires some thought, really kind of flows as you're thinking about your study. Collecting the data is going to be fun, and is analyzing it. So you're in great shape. Keep going on the units, Chapter 11 here, and then keep going on these pieces. I'll look forward to reading your literature review, and then this week I'll look forward to seeing your methodology or action research steps. Have a great week.